Good evening. It's Monday, June 26, 2023. Welcome to episode 25 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. Tonight's just going to be both Rebecca and I kind of getting caught up on some of the happenings around our homestead and a few other odds and ends. And it's really kind of a makeup episode from about 3 weeks ago. We were scheduled to come on and do a live, and I decided kind of at the last minute to cancel that because it turns out Rebecca on that day wound up injuring herself. And so I canceled the episode, but everything's okay. It's just, I thought I'd let her kind of explain what happened and how she's been doing.
Yeah, everything is fine. We were taking care of our grandson, and I was carrying him into the kitchen, and our dog, who absolutely loves her blanket, pulled it in, and she left it on the steps. So as I stepped up, I stepped onto the blanket and it slid out from underneath my feet. And since I was carrying my grandson, I wanted to protect him, which meant that I couldn't catch my fall. So my hips kind of took the brunt of the fall. And so I was recovering from that. We didn't go to the doctor or anything because there's not anything they can do about it. So we just kind of been toughing it out. But every day it's gotten better, and I'm up and doing everything that I normally would do. And I'm thankful that my son had left a recliner here because I spent most of the time in that, which helped me get up and down. And Eric spent a lot of time taking care of things in the house and making sure I got fed. And
well, you said that your hip, but you landed on your ribs, right?
My ribs, yes. I'm sorry, not my hip.
Yeah. So I think personally, we didn't go to the doctor, but I think she broke ribs. She was like pretty much incapacitated, couldn't do anything for like a week. And, I wound up doing double duty, which is something that I don't typically have to do. It's one of those things that you get very used to, relying on your spouse, your better half, to do some of the things that, shouldering that responsibility. She takes care of a lot of the stuff inside. I take care of a lot of the stuff outside, and we're, complement each other pretty well. But when one of the members of that team is not around, it really kind of opens your eyes to realizing that, it's a big change. And so, I'm just glad that you're back, feeling up to snuff. She's been active and doing stuff. And what would you say, like the pain, because you said the pain level was like worse, like since you had a C-section, it was almost worse than that.
My ribs hurt so bad, I could compare it to having a C-section, and just any slight movement, any time I had to cough or sneeze, just about sent me through the roof. But luckily that's a lot better. And they're still a little tender, but not bad. Like I said, I can do just about everything I was doing before. I would say the only thing that's difficult is to lift over 15-pound type of object. Is a lot of weight.
Well, I'm glad you're moving around and, feeling better and stuff. It's something that's super concerning, especially, as we get older, man. It's like, it's just not as easy to bounce back from stuff. And I happen to be walking in proximity to the front door that was open, and that's pretty untypical. A lot of times I'm well out doing stuff on the property elsewhere, and she was on the ground, and you probably would have been there for quite some time because she was not moving and was in severe pain. So like I say, I did cancel that last week, and that's the reason why, or not last week, but when we were scheduled to come on like 3 weeks ago. So I wound up canceling it, and I hope that you guys understand the reason why that was done. But glad that you're coming around.
Yeah, my poor grandson, he felt bad. He's only 2, and he felt really bad, and he wanted to climb up on the bed and lay up on top of me, and I had to push him away. because it was just so painful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, we got some folks in the chat. I just want to say hey to you guys. I'm a Christian from Florida. Good evening, Michael Eversberg. How are you, man? Good to see you. First time in the chat. So welcome to Porterhouse and Teal Live. Sergio Cruz, hello from Nicaragua. Wow. That's like some distance, man. Thanks for joining us. Potpourri of Life. How are you, Laura? Good to see you this evening. And she says,
hello, Potpourri.
Yeah, she says, hey to you. OR, how you doing from North Jersey? Good evening. Mona Lisa, Skane's girl in the house. Right on. The Ricksters. Hey, man, how you doing, Rick? Brian Jones from Fremont, Michigan. Good evening. Yeah, the injury thing is, it's one of those things that, like, a lot of times is people who are into the preparedness space, homesteaders, preppers, whatever, you know, we really get focused on certain things. We think about stacking beans and Band-Aids and bullets and things like that. But, you know, a lot of times people don't really talk about the aspect of preparing yourself physically. And again, when you're getting older, it makes it ever more important that you focus on some of those other aspects, you know, of the physical preparedness. So that's something that I try to do. And I think that that's just kind of a good message and a good takeaway from that. Another thing that I think is important to consider is just your medical preps, you know, having something on hand that you can manage pain for, something like that really you don't necessarily, unless you have some internal injury, you don't necessarily need to go to seek higher medical, you know, authority, seek their opinion, because you kind of know that, hey, this is something that's just going to take its time, and you might be able to just manage it on your own. And, you know, medical preps is another thing that's really important to kind of make sure you have. Yeah, one of the things I also wanted to kind of mention and talk about tonight is that decided to start a podcast. And I think that that's a pretty important thing. It's actually one of the things that I wanted to do this year, you know, as far as goals that I had, was to start a podcast. And it wasn't necessarily because I want to try to be a podcaster per se, but I really do want to be able to, I think there's a lot of value in being able to offer up the content that we're creating here in these lives in another way that people, if they're interested in consuming the content that we're putting out, they're going to be able to do that through whatever podcast service or podcatcher or podcast client that they choose. And essentially what I've done is I've taken all of the episodes from Porterhouse and Teal Live, with the exception of the very first episode. I still haven't been able to get the audio for that, but everything else has been transferred over, and it lives on Spotify. And then I've taken and moved the RSS feed to some of the other podcast clients. So it is now available as well. When I upload, it'll be going to Audible. So if you have Amazon Music, you can listen to it on Audible or Google Podcasts as well. And I intend on adding some others, Apple, but Apple's kind of been a pain, as I tried doing it, and it's a little bit more of a hassle. So it's something I need to continually work on and try to get that. But I know Apple's a very important or popular choice for people that have, you know, iPhones or whatever. And then like Stitcher and some of the others, but I'm very kind of new to it. I'm unfamiliar with what's actually, you know, people's preferences are as it relates to that. But I really do feel like it's an important thing to do, to spread, you know, your content across multiple platforms for a variety of different reasons. Yeah, putting all your eggs in one basket usually isn't the best idea. And so for one, making it available to those that want to consume it, I think, is important, but it also allows you to put that content out there that may exist there, but might not exist on other platforms. So for example, there's one episode that's on there that doesn't exist on YouTube because YouTube decided that that particular interview that I did had misinformation in it. And yeah, that's their choice. That's their platform. But there's other platforms where that material, that content can live. And so it actually lives on those other platforms, Spotify, Audible, and Google podcasts. So if you're interested in listening to that, you could go there and see it. But it was the very first time that I had Bobby Spags on from Spags Unfiltered. And I wound up getting a channel warning because of what we talked about. It was determined that it was misinformation. And that's their right entirely to do that. I have no problem with them doing that. But there are other avenues for people to have conversations in places where that content can be heard. So I actually would like to, in the future, to get podcast guests, some of which I might not be able to have on this platform, YouTube, or other platforms that might not be friendly to some of the conversation that we might have. And in that instance, I can just have the interview. I can download the audio onto the podcast and then advise those that would be interested on the YouTube community page, the community tab, that, hey, I've had this interview with this individual. I've chosen to put it here. If you'd like to listen to it, you can go and do that. And I think it's an important thing to be able to do so that you're not able to not talk about certain things, because I would like to talk about certain things, but I generally don't do that if I know that that's what is going to provoke those that have said, hey, these are the rules. So I think that that's an important thing. And I'm kind of excited about it. Nothing's changed as far as the content for Porterhouse and Teal Live at this point. It's still going to be primarily interviews with people in the homesteading and preparedness space, but also too, there will be occasional appearances from both Rebecca and I, just kind of doing like we're doing now, having a conversation with those of you who want to participate and have a conversation with us. So if you guys have any questions or comments, certainly feel free to throw those up in the chat, because this is the best time to do that. I typically, or in the interviews, I'm not always as interactive because I don't like disrupting the flow of the interview, but now's the time where you guys can let her fly. So appreciate you guys showing up in the chat. And let's see who else we got here. Leather Homestead. Hey, how's it going? Good evening tonight.
And you should say good night to OR. He'd left for a movie night.
Oh,
with
right
his
on.
family, I believe.
Right on. Yeah, cool.
I was just going to say, I believe we were going to talk about things that we have accomplished, that we were planning to, and maybe some things that we haven't quite finished.
Yeah. Well, you want to start?
Well, I had initially started writing some blogs, and I have to say that I've kind of slacked on that. I feel bad. But I have been giving my hand at trying to make homemade soap, not soup. And that is coming along. I'm still trying to perfect one that I definitely like. We've tried them. We've had family members try them, and they're giving us giving us feedback on what they like. And so far, it's turning out pretty good. And I'm also attempting to make some essential oils. So I am in the midst of doing a research for that, of what the best process of doing that is.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where it's, I don't know, you read hey, this is how you do it. You see somebody on the internet says you do it this way, you try it out, and maybe it works. And in some cases it doesn't work. And it's just one of those things where you really have to try things in order to find out what's going to work. And yeah, I think that's kind of the stage where you're at right now with it, right?
With one in particular, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Making mistakes. I mean, that's how you learn is putting yourself out there. And I actually have a video coming out this very weekend where I kind of debated whether or not I would make content on it, because, I didn't know if it would be something that I felt like putting out there, but I thought that there would be value in sharing a mistake that I had made and my attempt to correct that mistake. And not everything that we do here on the homestead comes out perfect. There's a lot of things that we do that don't work. And you don't always get to see that in the current landscape that we're in. Social media is a very, very curated existence. And it's so much different now than I guess it used to be, because we didn't have, all the editing and all the filters and all of the lighting and the camera angles and all of that stuff we didn't necessarily have. And the interactions that we had with people were one-on-one. We've always compared each other to, ourselves to someone else. That's just the nature of
human nature,
right? We compare ourselves like, oh, I'm not as successful as that person, or I'm not as good looking or as strong or athletic or whatever it happens to be. But that was always done in the real world. When people looked at each other before, they would look at that person and then they'd actually make that judgment. Now you look at that person with a filter on social media, that's a selfie, or you look at their amazing stuff they're doing on their homestead, because it's edited and it's selectively curated for your consumption. And so I don't know, I just thought it was somewhat of value to put that out there and, bring that to you. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's very true that, you're not really seeing the actual person.
Probably need to speak up because.
Oh, I don't think that you're seeing the actual person. I guess I go back and forth with the social media. I see too many little kids that have tablets in the grocery store watching a movie while their parents are shopping to entertain them. And that really hasn't any play as to what Eric was talking about. But
no, it actually does.
I think it's a shame that you can't interact with your own child. And people used to interact face to face, and now it's through social media, and you're looking at your square monitor, and the people on the other side can make themselves look however they want to look. And so it's not as it actually is.
Yeah. I don't know. I just felt that would be somewhat useful, just to show that, we make mistakes too. And the content that I put out, you're going to put out your best stuff. You're going to show, hey, this stuff is the stuff that's working, but you're not always going to show the stuff that didn't work. And so that's what I'm going to be releasing this week. And I hope you guys can give it a look and understand that, we're just trying to learn and do this too. I mean, that's the only way you get better at anything. In order to grow, you have to be willing to fail. And so, I think with what you were saying, I think that's part of the problems that we have in society with a lot of the kids and some of their insecurities and things that they deal with, is just that comparison. And it's always been there. I just think it's much different now. And social media is just such an interesting beast. But
It is. I think it takes the social aspect out of
Mm.
for kids to learn their social interaction, because they're interacting with either a cell phone or a tablet or their computer instead of a person. And at 5 and 6, 7 years old, I don't think that they need to do that, but that's my personal opinion.
Right. Yeah. Leather Homestead says, is there an ongoing list of no-goes, or does it change at the drop of a hat? I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure what that means. And then Brian Jones is giving a shout out to the Almighty God. He buried his father on Friday, 78 years old.
Aw,
Sorry to hear that, man.
sorry.
Saturday, my grandson was born. That's very interesting.
Very interesting.
That's very interesting because back in, what was it, March? It was like
March
10 days.
10th.
Yeah, it was like 10 days before I went to Self-Reliance Festival to speak. And my dad died
On March 10th.
on March 10th. And then our 6th grandchild was born when?
March 11th.
The next day.
And both of them early in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, sorry to hear that, Brian. Yeah, man, that's awesome. Says, yeah, Potpourri was just reading up on essential oils. Yeah, I look forward to see how things are going. Yeah, yeah. I mean, how do you feel like it's been going? Do you have you nailed it, or are you still? I mean, she's done a lot of research and done some different trials, and some things have worked and some things are like, maybe that's not the right recipe or whatever. But
yeah, I've tried. One of them, they were talking about you could do it in a crock pot, and I've given it a shot, and I just don't find that works out for me. So I'm going to go and attempt the setting it in the windowsill and letting the sun do the work. It's obviously takes a lot longer, but I'm hoping that process actually brings out the oils and the aroma that I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. What else do you want to talk about?
What else? We've got our water system in place. That was something you wanted to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I started out this year, we talked about, or actually, I think it was about our second time coming on and doing a live. And I think this is only our 4th or maybe 5th time, but I had outlined some things that I thought I wanted to have done on the year. When I started the year, I had highlighted certain things that I wanted to accomplish, because I think that it's important that you commit to those ideas, or a lot of times other things take precedent. And so one of them was water system. The other was solar. That's another big aspect of what I wanted to get done. And the water project started back in last fall, where I wound up locating a water source and then capturing that water source. And then I hadn't really done anything at the quarter of this year. And I was letting folks know that, hey, I had, a quarter of the year's gone and I haven't done any of these things. And so I do have good news to report. From that time to now, I've moved into the next phase of that project, which to me is a big step forward, because water is such a very, very important aspect of everything that we do. Water is life. And if you're just reliant upon one source, something happens to that source, you're kind of really at the mercy of what's next. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a backup to my well. I'm not on city water, I'm on a well. Plus we have, a big old swimming pool, which could be used, but I don't have any way to really get it out other than buckets or whatever. So I wanted to establish this water system. And so since the last time I reported, I have been able to route it from where I captured it, and I've stored it in a 3,000 gallon water tank. And currently I'm able to gravity feed that right into that 3,000 gallon water tank. So there's nothing that's required to get it into the tank. And then I'm able to actually allow it to drip out gravity and distribute that to about 120 trees that I've planted. And to me, that's a very important thing to have, especially if you have livestock on a homestead, because if something goes out where the well is out or whatever, then how do you get water out of your well if you have no power? We have a generator and all those sort of things, but let's say the water runs out and then the well goes dry. Maybe that other source will be viable. And that's kind of the way I was thinking. So I wound up getting further along in phase 2 with that project. And where I'm currently sitting going into the third phase, the third and what I would consider really the final phase. I'm not going to get too carried away and fancy with it. I'm not going to try to treat the water and get it into my existing system. I'm just going to allow it to be a standalone system, but I do want it to be powered. And I'm just going to do it very simply with a 12 volt type system, solar. So something akin to maybe 100 watt panel with one deep cycle battery with a small 12 volt water system. And 12 volt pump. And then I don't know what I'll do with regard to timers and different things like that may automate it a little bit more. But that'll be the next phase of this that I'm working on. And I have consulted, because I'm not like a super genius with that stuff. I could figure it out. But if you have a resource that you can tap into, and somebody who is a good person, somebody who's, I guess, a like-minded individual that's super dialed with regard to off-grid stuff. I've tapped into this individual, and he actually reached out to me, quite honestly, because he had heard me on Nicole Sauce's podcast, and he had heard me talking about the fact that a person that I was working with, or attempting to work with to help me with my solar system, basically ghosted me. The dude just fanned me. He's like, yeah, he wouldn't even call me back. Right. And so he heard me talking about that. And Sean actually reached out to me. His name's Sean Mills, and he's got a company called Hack My Homestead. And if you guys are looking for someone to maybe get some consultation from, I would certainly look him up, because he's been very, very helpful. We're moving the ball forward. It's a little bit slow on my end because I haven't gotten him the information as quickly as I could. And I know he's a very busy dude, but he's helping me design my solar system, because I don't have the know-how to do that. I can put stuff together, but I need somebody's technical expertise, especially because I'm not necessarily looking to do this completely off grid and outside of the system. I'm already tied to the system with a grid tied solar system. What I'm looking to do is take those string inverters, get rid of them, and replace them with a hybrid inverter and install my own batteries so that I can capture and store my own energy and manage it more effectively. So I'm not just reliant upon the fact that the power is on. Hey, I'm making solar. It's turning the meter backwards while the sun's out. But as soon as that's gone, I'm basically back on grid. And then if the grid goes down, they shut our power off at any point in time, my solar is useless. And so I wanted to get a little bit more control in that. And Sean's helping me with that. I've been dealing with him and corresponding with him remotely. And we've been going back and forth. And he lives in Alabama, and I'm out in California. And it's been pretty cool, man. So that's where I'm moving toward next, to try to get things done here on the property. But I haven't gotten far enough on the solar to feel like I've moved the ball far enough. But we're still working on getting some information, because there's interconnection agreements and different things that if I start monkeying around with stuff that's going to completely completely to negate what I have currently and kind of get me in trouble with the utility company, the provider that I have in Pacific Gas and Electric. So I need to try to do it the right way. If for some reason it's going to be a hassle, we'll go the different way. But I want to try to do it above board first off, and Sean's helping me with that. So if you're interested in that, again, check him out, man. Sean Mills from Hack My Homestead. Yeah. What do you think of that?
Mm-hmm. The only other thing is I've been trying to give my hand at selling on eBay. And I did sell my first item. For me, it appeared as though it went extremely smooth. The person purchased it. The money came in. I immediately got everything packed up and mailed it off. I actually, even when I went to the post office, I had asked them, I said, I want to make sure that this has got enough packing in it, because it was ceramic cowboy boots, cookie jar. And they agreed, yeah, I could use some more bubble wrap or whatnot. And so I had slid the box open a little bit and was able to stuff that in there. And she double checked it and said, oh, it should be fine. And I got a negative review. So he said it was poorly packed and broken. Didn't request for his money back. I asked for a revise and there was no response to it. So they allow me to post one thing at a time until I get, I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe 10 positive feedbacks, and then I can put more than one item on. So it's a little discouraging, but I have one item on there and hopefully it will sell.
Yeah, that's what a bummer, man. I don't know. It sounded like you did everything right, and for whatever reason, this dude decided to give a negative review without any, follow up from there. So it right out of the gate, it kind of gave her a ding, and I don't know. We'll try to work around that somehow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see here. This Eternal Vigilance. Just wanted to let you know I'm really enjoying your content. Never knew about Novagen Browns until I watched your videos. Next time I get chicks, I'm going to get that breed and try them out. Yeah, I think if you do, you're going to really like them. They are a hybrid. They are an egg layer specifically. You're not going to get any meat off these birds. They're very slight. They're just an egg layer. That's what they do. They're
going to go get an egg.
No, they're egg laying machines. They lay a jumbo size egg once they get fully rolling. They start off, as most hens do, with a smaller egg. But then once they start kicking them out, it's like nonstop. We've got those hens are going on 2 years, and I don't think they've really slowed down yet. They're just cranking. So if you're looking for egg production, they're quite a good bird. And
pretty friendly.
Yeah, that's another thing about them. They are pretty docile. So I've actually got 2 roosters right now, 2 cockerels that are, I'm trying to determine which of the 2 that it's going to eventually wind up making the grade. They're both pretty nice roosters. They haven't attacked my wife or my grandkids yet. So that's a strike in their favor. And they're doing their job. They're not overly aggressive with the hens. And so I'm going to be trying to implement and incorporate some of those genetics back to see what we get, and basically just hatch my own and go from there. I'm not really interested in having to rely on getting them out of the hatchery. I can do that, but I don't know why I'm not doing that as far as breeding my own. So we're going to be incubating some birds, and if we get some broody ones, maybe allowing them to do their thing. But really good birds. I think you'll like them if you get them. And yeah, thanks for showing up tonight. And
I want to say thanks to Skane's Girl and Poultry for Life. Yes, I was raised by a mom that if you were not badly hurt, you just dusted it off and kept going. So,
Yeah. Put a rag on it, right?
put a rag on it.
Yeah.
I have some pretty nasty scars on my legs.
Yeah. Yeah. She got a scar on her leg that's like that big open because I guess your mom just like gave you a wet rag and said, hey, get it back out there. Go.
Yeah.
Should have been stitched, but
Probably.
yeah. You know, I actually I should up my game because I wound up going in for some stitches and man, what an idiot. I don't know. I won't say that. I just think I wasn't prepared well enough. And I made the choice because I thought going to a professional would yield a professional result. And I wound up going and getting stitches that, how much did that cost?
It was $598 that we paid, and the insurance paid a little bit more than that. And then there was like basically a write-off.
I thought you said it was like thousands of dollars or something, but
Well, the total
Yeah.
of it was like $2,400 or something like
yeah,
that.
for stitches, 3 stitches in my thumb. I wound up hitting my thumb with a cutoff wheel when I was working on my sheep tractor. And I mean, it was a nasty looking gash. And I decided to go down to the ER and get it done professionally because I thought, if I had some lidocaine and stuff, I'd wind up stapling it myself and stitching it or doing whatever. But I wasn't really set up for that. I actually should. And I'm going to talk to Chuck Peoples because he's pretty dialed on Homestead medical stuff. But I want to make sure that I have the ability to do that myself because it's like,
I'll do it for you.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that, but we just need to have the stuff. And we didn't have the stuff. Yeah, it's a gross looking scar on my thumb now. And that dude,
it's character.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm not a hand model. I'm not worried about it. I'm not making money by people looking at my gross hands, but it's like, man, I should have got a better result than that. But he gave me like 3 stitches when I probably should have had like 5 or 6 in this little gash. But
definitely.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, live and learn, right? We make mistakes. We live and learn. Hey, there's Jason. What's up, man? Good to see you, brother. Kentucky Sustainable Living. They're getting ready to have a festival in October. And I'm planning to go down there and participate in that and hang out and teach some folks how to put in a plant tree, permaculture fruit tree guild. And yeah, he's going to have a lot of other folks there and some cool vendors and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, go on his website, KentuckySustainableLiving.com. And it's going to be in the latter part of October. So there's going to be a couple of different festivals about that time. SRF and Jason's is as well at that time. So good to see you tonight, bro. Let's see what we got here. What am I doing? Yeah. Yeah, water is super important. Super, super important. I feel very, very good about the next phase of that. It's something I told myself I was going to do years ago. This guy, what's up, man? How you doing, Spags? I was talking about you tonight earlier because of the episode we talked about on YouTube that never doesn't live on YouTube anymore. Good news is it does live on the podcast. So for those that came in late, I started a podcast, transferred all those audio files over to that. And that particular episode was one of my favorite episodes of all time. And I'm glad that it exists over there on Spotify and Audible and Google. So
Brian asked you, what about the rain? Or train.
The
Sorry.
train. What?
Yeah, I never learned to read.
All right. What are your thoughts on the train derailment on the Yellowstone? I don't even know nothing about that, man. Sorry. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Oh, man. Man, there's a lot of folks in here. Appreciate you guys coming in. If you guys got any questions or anything you want to throw them at us, certainly do that.
Another thing we were going to I believe, touch on is, and I believe we brought it up before about our dog and the not illness, but
It's a disorder.
It's a disorder that she has. It's known as either Spades or Shar-Pei fever, or autoinflammatory disease.
Spades stands for Shar-Pei autoinflammatory disease, autoimmune inflammatory disease. And it's a disease that affects the dog to the point where they wind up having a very acute bout of fever that can last anywhere from like
a day to 3 days.
A day to 3 days. And the onset is extremely rapid, where she'll be running around playing, everything's cool. And the next thing you know, she's kind of hunched up, walking around all weird. And then it's like, it took us a while to actually figure this out, because we were like, what's going on with her? Why is she acting so wacky? You know, what's happening? Why is she all puffy? What's her, you know? And we researched it, and we found out that this is actually somewhat fairly common among Shar-Peis, but only the Shar-Peis that are the meat mouth. And the first Shar-Pei that we had was what was called a bone mouth, where they have more of like a Labrador retriever looking snout. And then hers is like the big, like
big,
yeah,
you want to squish it.
Yeah, puffy face, you know, it's just super squishy and cute and all. And we found out that she has this disorder. And most vets around here, because they're not a very common dog, don't know anything about it. And so we wound up actually doing the research on our own, kind of learning about it. And then we wound up sending her blood off to get tested from Cornell University, is a place that does the test. It's not something that's done locally. It's like, they're like the specialist for that particular disorder. And it came back that she was a double carrier. And what that means is that she got the bitch was a carrier, as well as the sire was a carrier. Yes. So that's a problem, I guess, because as a breeder, you don't want to pass those genetics on to people, but yet the breeder is, in our opinion, just in the dealings that we've had with them, has kind of been showing us that they're kind of unethical.
It's pretty disheartening, because when I was asking them about this, they basically said they didn't know anything about it other than what she'd heard on Facebook. And maybe my dog got bit by a spider, but yet all the symptoms that she said, you know, does she have a fever? Does she have a swollen hock? Maybe you should change her food. Kind of led me to believe that they were well aware of this, but were playing it off as something else. She's a beautiful dog. We absolutely love her, but she's going to be on medication for the rest of her life. Right, Ellie?
Yeah, I guess the reason why we're bringing this up is it's another one of those kind of almost mistakes type deal. And I think it's important that if you are dealing with getting an animal that's going to cost you money, significant money at the outset, you do your research. You do your research before you purchase that animal, because it's just really sad for the dog. It's sad that, you know, the dog has this issue, and it's we should have done our homework, and we didn't. And we got her. We love her. We're not going to change that. They asked, "Oh, do you want another replacement dog?" We're not. No, we don't want a replacement dog. We don't want another dog from you. We don't want any of that. We would hope that you would not breed the dogs that you're currently breeding, because you're still breeding the dogs that have the issue. Well, and so I don't think that wait a minute. Okay. I don't think that, I think we made a mistake, and it's just one of those things, buyer beware. Do your research, do your homework. Yeah, I don't know. You want to say any more about it?
they had said that they no longer have the female. And I basically had told them, I said, but she's a double carrier, which means that she got it from the father and the mother. And I never heard back from the people. That was in the conversation.
Yeah.
You know too much.
Yeah. And, they tried to play it off like they didn't know what was going on. And it was, here, try switching her food. And then we come to find out that's her affiliate link.
But they never stated that.
Here, try this new food because, we think, that it's causing some inflammation issues. Really? I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things. And then once we let them know that, hey, she's a double carrier, maybe you shouldn't breed that dog. We never heard from them again. And we've talked to a lot of other Shar-Pei breeders that are very concerned about the animals that they sell. And they really want to know what's going on with them. They want to know the follow-up and all those sorts of things. So it's just, again, it sucks because, we spent money on her. Then we get her home. We have to spend more money on her. And then now she's going to be on, medication for life. That's our bad. That's our mistake. Again, we're not taking away from the dog because we love her and we wouldn't trade her for anything. But at the same time, it's just one of those lessons you learn in life. Do your homework before you purchase something like.
Right. Our purpose, I guess, to bring it up is to just say what Eric had said, is to do your homework first and read about any possible symptoms that could happen to a registered animal. Because in this case, it was not a requirement for this test to be done for them to sell registered animals. But all of the information is out there that you could look up and you could read about.
Right. Well, cool. That's kind of what we've been doing here on the homestead, trying to move the ball forward. I've been trying to put together content that hopefully folks will enjoy. I've actually spent a good deal of time this week working on a video for 2 weeks from now, and it's been one of my most tedious projects yet. I'm be glad when I finish the video, but it's taken a good deal of my time. But hopefully it'll be something that people enjoy. I actually prefer, and I think I've stated this before, I actually prefer just having this type of a conversation and live streaming. That's pretty much my favorite part about YouTube, is just being able to come on, do lives, do interviews with people and have a conversation, get the chance to meet people. I think that's, my favorite part of this, because it is unscripted and you're getting to see a little bit more of an unfiltered version of, what we're like and interacting with us. But that's getting back to what I was saying earlier in the broadcast about social media and how completely curated and scripted most of it is. And so this is kind of a nice departure from that, where we can just have a conversation. So I appreciate you guys showing up tonight and being lively in the chat.
Poultry's got a suture kit. So next time you slice yourself open, we'll just ship you over to her. She can stitch you up.
I don't see where it says that.
I'm pretty sure I read that.
Where does it say that? Oh, yeah. Right there. Get some Band-Aids that actually close things up. Yeah. Such as a Closex. Are those like the little things with the hooks in them? They're like a steri strip with a hooks in them or something. I've seen those. Those seem like those could work pretty good. But I do need to up my game on that, because that's one of the things that I wind up doing a lot of, is cutting myself. We've got medical stuff and bandages and all that sort of stuff, but that stuff rarely gets used. And what gets used is my little kit that has Band-Aids in it and triple antibiotic ointment and some tape and some gauze. That's about it. That's 95% of, probably 97% of my medical use right there, is because I'm always seeming like I'm running in because I'm bleeding.
I told him I'd close him up with some super glue, but he didn't go for it.
Yeah, that's another thing too.
He said, no.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, is I was concerned because it was so deep. I actually thought I could have had some ligament or tendon damage or something. So I wanted to get somebody to look at it and say, hey, like my thumb wasn't moving that great at the time. And I didn't know if I had done some damage there. And then I also wanted to make sure that it was, cleaned out well before I closed it up. And, that's something obviously I could have done, but I chose otherwise. And again, lesson learned, right? Sutures that cost thousands of dollars that I could have just used a stapler or a steri strip or, some Dermabond. But I'll be talking to Chuck on that deal. Oh, Mr. Peoples. Let's see here. Do we have any rain collecting systems working on the homestead? No, actually, I don't. I thought about it, and I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a good idea and something that I wouldn't possibly do in the future, but I haven't done it. I haven't, done the downspouts and, found some vessels to put it in, IBC totes or something like that. Yeah, I haven't done that. It's not out of the question though. Yeah, it is. It is kind of. They got rid of the one dog, but they're still breeding the sire, and he's a carrier, and so as a breeder, personally, I would want to test my animals and make sure that I'm not passing that on to somebody, because it's not fair to the people that are spending thousands of dollars on animals, and it's not fair to the dog that their life is going to be shortened because of poor genetics that you're passing on. This is not something that's like completely unknown or unheard of. It's actually in their documentation. Mm-hmm. When you look at that, they state, if, Sharpei, the inflammatory disease, it's stated in there. If it's this, or this, or whatever. And we didn't look at that until after the fact. And we didn't know because we hadn't had any problem with our first dog. So why would you do that? But I guess this is the live and learn episode, all the things we've done wrong, all the stupid things.
Although again, I'd have to say she is great. Oh,
dude. Yeah. Love that dog. Yeah. Love her. That's right, Rick. Yep. She's a good dog. Suture kit. Yeah. I got to up my game. There's things that I don't have. There's things that I would benefit of having. Those are things that are common, man, that any of us can really do. Having the pain meds that's something that's should be in everybody's preps. It is in mine, and it has been for years, because whenever I go and get a prescription for something, if I have some kind of a procedure or whatever, I had my wisdom teeth pulled out or whatever years ago, and I wound up just keeping that bottle because I didn't take any of the Vicodin because I don't like taking that stuff. But if you need it, you need it. And I actually wound up giving that to a friend who on a Friday night was welding like this big ass pipe, and he wound up like the whole thing fell right on top of his foot and it broke his foot. I mean, he had like broken bones on the top. His metatarsals were like broken. And it's Friday night. He didn't go to the emergency room, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I got some stuff. And I wound up giving him some Vicodin to get him through the weekend until he could go see his doctor. But he wound up actually having some broken bones. They needed to cast his foot. But, it's just a good idea to have that stuff. Yeah.
Super glue does work.
Yeah. She wound up super gluing one of our kids' heads shut one year.
See, I'm no better than my mom.
Yeah. Put a rag on it. Get out of here. Yeah. Yeah. I gotta, I'm telling you, I need to up my game on all of that stuff. I've got some butterfly bandages and things and whatever, but the stapler thing is kind of cool. I could do some stapling. My understanding is this is going to leave kind of a gnarly scar, but hell, look what this dude did. Look at my thumb, man. You can't really see that, but there's like Frankenstein scar on here. I don't know. He did me wrong. Yeah, the pro, you should do a little better work than that, in my opinion. Yeah. Well. Yep. Well, cool. Hey, what's up, Terminator? How are you? Good to see you this evening. Hope things are well up there in Canada. I suspect you're in your full-on summer growing season now and not dealing with the inclement snowy weather. So yeah, good to see you. What's up? Well, what do you think? Should we end the broadcast?
I don't know if they have any questions, or
Yeah.
is there anything else you need to add?
Yeah, I think that was about it. I just wanted to kind of talk about the podcast and some of the other stuff that we covered.
Did you want to show her a mug?
What's that?
Did you want to show Ellie's mug?
No. She's in the thumbnail. Ellie's in the thumbnail.
Oh, that's true. I forgot.
Yeah, that's our dog, man. She's a good girl. She's amazing. All right on. Yeah. Yeah, Terminator. I guess everybody now is reaping the benefits of that great weather. Things have been different here for us. I don't know what it's like up your way, but with this whole El Nino that's taking place, it's caused our weather to get kind of wacky. We really haven't had any hot weather, and that's very untypical for us. We've had very nice weather, and we've actually had these big buildups, big thunderstorm buildups on both sides. We live in the valley, and on the west side and on the east side behind us, we've had these massive thunderstorm buildups every day for about the last month, which is super untypical. That typically happens further inland over some of the high mountains, and we wind up getting lightning and thunderstorms and stuff interior, but not so much where we're at. And we've just seen a difference in our climate, and the temperatures have just been amazingly nice, like 80 degrees. And we're usually like 100 right now, like average.
100 plus.
Yeah. And it's actually supposed to be like 107 or something by the weekend, which is the first time, all year. But typically we're like 100 by May, and then just blistering summers. And I understand the Midwest is kind of having like a drought where they're normally getting 112.
We've had days like that. I think
not this year.
Not this year.
Yeah.
But one of our hottest days was 118, and of course that was years back.
Yeah, but, it was like well, we had like 115 for a couple of 3 days last year, and killed a few chickens, killed a few buff Orpingtons and stuff. But I'm not looking forward to that, man, because it stresses all the plants and stresses the animals, and it's just a little too excessive. But so Judy Jules and the Big Italian. Hey, how you doing?
Love the name.
Yeah, how you doing? Right on. Well, cool. I think we're gonna get up out, right?
Yeah, we gotta have dinner.
Yeah, we still have to eat. So I really appreciate everybody taking time out of their evening to listen to us ramble along. And this broadcast will wind up being moved over to the podcast. I'll strip the audio and then move that over to the podcast. So again, for those that didn't catch it, check it out, because all of that content that we've had prior to this, with the exception of the very first episode, I haven't moved over yet. All of that lives over on the podcast, which is on Spotify, Audible, and Google podcasts. So
where's the fire at?
What's that?
I don't know where my crooked little homestead.
Let's see. The smoke from the forest fires are so intense Sundays we couldn't work outside. Yeah. She's up in Canada, I think. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what part. I think it's, I think she's in, what part are you in? I'm not sure where she's at. Not Ontario, but anyhow, up in Canada. And they've been having a lot of fires and everything up that way. So hopefully we don't wind up with that, because I know that. I mean, we've burned up our entire area years ago, and it's been pretty calm last year. Haven't had much of a fire season, and hopefully it's a slow season this year, but it sucks when everything's all smoked in. When we actually took a trip up to Canada, I think it was in 2018, I believe. I ran a race up in Oregon, and then from there we wound up going up into visit some friends up in British Columbia, and then we wound up going over to what's the next one over? I can't by Calgary and stuff, and we came down through Saskatchewan, and then we wound up coming back through. But the entire thing was smoked out, man. I was so bummed. I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to go Canada, see all this cool stuff, Lake Louise, and all this amazing stuff. It was just like smoked out, man. I got pictures of me standing there like, hey, this is great. And the background is just like, I couldn't see anything. But Ontario, okay. Yeah.
So somebody asked where we were at. We are in Northern California.
Yep. Yeah, we're in northern Sacramento Valley. And it's hot here. It's hot, flat, 300 feet elevation. But the mountains on either side are nice. So it's not like we're flat like we're living in Florida or something. It's flat in the valley, but we've got mountains on either side. And it's just beautiful. Good night, Michael. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for joining us.
That was super cool. I appreciate everybody coming in on the chat tonight again. And we're going to go, I think, eat some steak. And thanks again, guys. Right on.
Yeah, have a great evening, guys.
All right. Take care.